Well, welcome YouTube friends and family to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today we are going to continue our Great Depression era cooking, and I'm going to bring you a recipe out of this book called Hard Times Cookbook with Back to Basics Great Depression Cooking. Now, I will leave a link in the description box. This is super inexpensive. It was on sale, pardon me, last week for $6.63, I think. So very low in price, so not too bad at all. I'm telling you guys, it is a cute read, but it doesn't have like a ton of recipes that are super useful. But I do like this idea for tuna dinner. The problems continue with my speaking. So let me read you the list of ingredients. 6 cups of potatoes peeled, 1/4 cup margarine or butter, 1/4 cup flour, salt, pepper, 3 1/2 cups milk, a cup of grated cheese, 1 1/2 cup peeled and sliced onion, 1/2 green pepper diced, 1 or 2 large cans of tuna, 1/2 cup dry, and this is breadcrumbs, but I know they mean breadcrumbs, toasted and crushed. So that is the ingredient list. Oh, I was really hoping that today I could get my speaking ability back. So what I decided to do, because I don't want to have to eat this forever, is I have pre-peeled the potatoes, and I'm just going to slice them thin. And I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potatoes, but some of them are quite small. So while I'm prepping and chopping here, what's your weather like? That is a chop your finger off waiting to happen. We have had the strangest weather. It was in the 60s, like the week of Christmas, so it did not feel like Christmas, although we had already had snow. Then this week we had one morning it was 8 degrees with a 15 degree below wind chill. So we've had some really, really bitterly cold days with only highs in the teens. Began raining last night. It was a high in the upper 30s. Thankfully, it was rain and not snow, or I would be snowbound, I'm sure. And then, oddly enough, it's going to get cold again tomorrow. So drop me a comment below. Are you all having a strange winter? Because we certainly are. And I left out, when we had the 15 below wind chill, we also had snow, but it was like, I don't know, maybe an inch total. It was like nothing. For Ohio snows, that's nothing. So I was not too concerned about it, and it didn't really seem to affect the roads that much, even though it was bitterly cold. However, it had been so warm the days before. I also wanted to share with you, because I realized after I posted my Saturday video that I didn't mention anything about my Azure Standard order. So it's changed 3 times. The latest, unless I get an update today, is 8 o'clock Monday morning is the next delivery. It was supposed to be Sunday at 3, and the truck driver ran into bad weather down south, so they had to push it forward, which is fine with me. So I am the drop coordinator now for our Azure Standard drop. So I will need to arrive there early tomorrow morning in the freezing cold and make sure everyone, that the truck gets offloaded, everyone gets their items. And I'll be working with the delivery truck driver, to sign the invoice, etc., etc. So it's really a pretty simple process. And I don't know that people would appreciate me filming that. I'll see what I can do. I will certainly be sharing my Azure Standard drop. So when I share that, so that will probably be, I don't know what day's video, I will share with you the little secret I've been keeping about a new relationship with Azure that I have, and why you might be interested in joining Azure as part of your grocery shopping as well. So I don't know how many cups of potatoes this is, guys. A lot. Plenty. But I'm going to call that good. And I am going to get these on the stove to boil. And then I am going to work on chopping up the onion, and I will bring you back to talk about how we prepare this tuna dinner dish. So I do have my potatoes in the pot ready to boil hopefully very soon, and we're to boil those until tender. But I want to read y'all the directions because after I read this, I'm like, I think part of the recipe's missing. So it says, place potatoes in a pan, add water and sail, I think they mean salt, and boil until tender. Set aside and wash, and in a dry fry pan, mix melted butter, flour, salt, and pepper, then milk, stir until thickened, then cheese, stir until melted. Add tuna, and the meal is ready. Okay, wait, what happened to the onion, the green pepper, and the breadcrumbs? I'm confused. So, necessity is the mother of invention. So what I'm doing over here is melting a 1/4 cup of butter in my Grandma Victoria's cast iron skillet, because we will be finishing this in this skillet. And I'm thinking we will add some breadcrumbs and cheese to the top and pop it under the broiler. I think that would be really good. You know, kind of think tuna melt. I will share a little secret with you all. I don't love tuna. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. And I kind of have to be in the mood for it. And when you all were voting, and I will be doing one pot spaghetti as well, but when you all were voting, I'm like, no, not the tuna. But I do think it's a good thing to have canned tuna on the shelf. It's certainly a very viable protein, and I have plenty, even though I always have canned tuna from my Grand Cat Chester. All right, so what I'm going to do, pardon my reach, is I'm going to go ahead and saute these onions while our potatoes are coming up to a boil, because who wants like raw crunchy onions with tuna? I don't. Love onion, don't like it raw and crunchy in a cooked casserole type dish or a one skillet dish. So I am going to season these well. I clean things up and rearrange seasonally, and then I can never find anything. And why is this a mystery? Okay. I do like freshly ground pepper, and I like a lot of it, but you could certainly do this to taste. And you could certainly add any other seasonings that you prefer. I'm fine with just salt and pepper, at least to start. Sometimes you have to make a dish and taste it before you decide what you're going to do next time. And guys, do you write in your cookbooks? I write in my cookbooks. If I make something and it's like enough for an army and I want to cut it back, I will make a note of that. If I make it and I think it needs certain spices or less of this or that, I will make those notes right in the cookbook, because I can't rely on my memory anymore. All right, so let me show you, in honor of this being a depression meal. So here I have, I don't know if you can read this, sourdough breadcrumbs that my son and I used, and these are pre-toasted. They are frozen, but this is what they look like vacuum sealed, and there's about 4 cups. So let me open these so they can start refluffing. So once I use, half of this, let's say, I will go ahead, wow, those are pretty frozen. I will go ahead and reseal the bag and pop them back in the freezer. Hopefully they'll fall. I think they'll fall now that I open the bag. Yeah, they seem fine. And this was actually a loaf of sourdough bread. So I'll break those up off camera. Okay, little for Frankie on the floor. I will tell you guys, my little Frankie, hanky panky Frankie, he loves his mama. And he senses when I'm not myself. And he has been a little hover bug. He gets very upset if I raise my voice, which I don't do that with him normally. If I make loud noises, he doesn't like that either. He's a very tender-hearted little kitty. And yesterday, he brought me his meower corn. He's like, this will make it better, Mom, I know. And for those of you who are new, if you're wondering why I always call myself Mom, my grand cat, who is half Siamese, has one of those real yowly, real talky voices. Very smart. And he would hear my son calling me Mom, so he would come to the door when he wanted something, and my son wouldn't give it to him and say, Mom. I swear it sounded just like what he was saying. Well, then Frankie's like, you my mom too. So Frankie started doing a similar thing. And you've all heard Frankie say hello, so he can talk, people talk. So I'm just gonna let these onions hang out, probably on a fairly low heat, until they're nice and translucent and soft. I ended up using just the one big onion. It's at 1.5 cups, which adds a lot of flavor, but that was a big onion, so I think that's gonna be enough, since I probably don't have the max amount of potatoes either. But you know, that was a lot of what depression cooking was about. Use it up, wear it out, make do, do without. So with that thought, I'll pause you and I'll bring you back when it's time to start assembling things and preparing to toast those breadcrumbs on the top of our dish. Stay tuned. All right, well, our potatoes are draining and our onions are nice and caramelized, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the 1/4 cup of flour. So what we're doing here is just making a roux or a thickener, and you do want to cook this a bit. A lot of these recipes, especially in vintage cookbooks, will assume you know a lot about cooking. And if you're not someone who's cooked a lot or cooked a lot from scratch, you may not realize that. But if you just add the flour and you don't cook it a bit, what happens is you get that raw flour taste. So it will taste much better if you let it bubble and cook, and it will release sort of a nutty flavor into the mixture. So that's cooking good. I do have my broiler on heat, and I'm going to start adding the milk. So this is 2 cups. It says 3.5. That surely seems like a lot to me, but let's see. Maybe it won't be. And I'm going to turn my heat up, kind of like you're making a gravy. We'll just call it gravy. Then it'll be really good, right? I do think it's going to need more milk just to make enough sauce for the potatoes. So I'm going to go with 3 cups because I think that'll be enough, and I don't want to overrun the skillet because I still have to put in the tuna and the potatoes. Guys, I'm sorry. If this is the first time you're watching my channel, I'm just dealing with some things with my mom. So she's been calling throughout my attempts at filming, and she forgets that she's called and forgets a lot of things. And it's just sometimes a challenge to get something done. And I didn't share, it's also no makeup Sunday. So please excuse the no makeup look. But you know what? Sometimes your skin needs to breathe, so I decided today would be the day. All right, I'm gonna let that kind of come up to at least a simmer before I add, it says 1 cup of cheese, and that will also help thicken it. My stove, being a glass top stove, does take a while. Once it's hot, it stays hot, but it does take a while. So let's go ahead and start adding the cheese so it can melt. And I'm just going to use the rest of that package. This is Great Value brand sharp cheddar, and I saved a little of extra sharp cheddar to mix with our breadcrumbs that I'm going to put on the top. Oh yeah, I can feel that it's getting thicker already. And I'm sure the starch from the potatoes will thicken it a bit as well. So the potatoes took a little less than 20 minutes. Yeah, that's thickening quickly. So let's go ahead and add our potatoes. Ooh, this is gonna be a nice big skillet. I hope it's tasty because I have to eat this whole thing until it's gone. Not in one day, obviously, but yeah, that's looking good. I'm gonna add 1 large can of tuna. This is a 12-ounce can. I think that's a gracious plenty. It says 1 or 2 large cans, but I actually think this is gonna be kind of tasty. I'm trying to think of it like a tuna melt, because occasionally I will crave a tuna melt. So, you know, we don't realize how fortunate we are not being in the Depression. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. It's adequately thick, and I don't want to scorch that milk. You know, we can use ready-made products. I don't do a great deal of that. I enjoy home cooking, but we have a huge variety of products at hand. Now, they may have wanted those breadcrumbs actually in this to thicken it, but I am not going to do that. I am going to make it like a crust, or attempt to. And I know I'm making a mess, guys. Welcome to Kim's Kitchen. If you don't make a mess, it isn't good cooking. Okay, that looks like it'll make a pretty good crusty top. Just get it towards the edges as well. I'm going to put a little extra cheese on. I'm going to pop it under the broiler and just give it a chance to brown. And then I'll bring you back and we will do a taste test. Stay tuned. All right, guys, this is what happens when you decide, oh, I need to wash all the dishes and clean the stove, and you forget that you're cooking. So it did get a little bit brown on the top. I scraped some of it off, but let's go over here. Let me show you the dish in the book, and I'll swing you around and we'll give it a taste test. All right, well, let's try this. It is steaming hot. I will confess I set off the smoke alarm. But let's see, it looks delicious. It's really, really creamy. Can you see the steam? I don't know if you can see the steam, but it is smoking hot. Wow, that's actually really good. It's kind of like au gratin potatoes with tuna. It's not overly fishy, which was my worry. Let's give it another taste. I didn't go real heavy with the salt, so it may need a little salt. Those Depression era folks were on to something, guys. That is absolutely delicious. So, drop me a comment below. What is the most Depression era meal that you ever remember having in your life? I will share with you mine, and that was pork and beans, cold out of the can, and butter sandwiches. But I liked them when I was a kid, so, but you know, that was a cheap and a quick, inexpensive lunch. That was never a dinner. The most Depression era dinner I probably ever ate was my mom used to make something called salt pork, which is a real little piece of salt cured meat that gets sliced kind of like a thick sliced bacon, and green beans and potatoes. It was so salty that I never did care for it, but when they didn't have money for meat, you know, that's what Mom would serve. So I hope you've enjoyed today's Depression era cooking. Don't forget to check the description box if you'd like to order a copy of the book. I want to shout out, oh, and I hope I have this name right. You would think I would. I think it's Kimberly, who recommended a book, a reading book. So I've downloaded, just started it on Audible. So thank you very much, Kimberly. And if I have your name wrong, drop me a comment below. All through this video, not only has my mother called, but Azure drop questions have been coming and coming and coming text-wise. So if you hear all the dinging, that's what that's about. So I better go eat my lunch. And as always, be healthy, Be well, be blessed, and I'll see y'all very soon. Take care.